He just couldn't carry, man. He tried his hardest to carry.
It was really close. Aaron did really well.
He did really well. I think 2 members almost carried, but they didn't quite have it. And you know what? I think that, honestly, a big part of it, I know that some teams have, like, physical fitness as part of their regime.
True.
Like Cincinnati Fear, shout-outs to Cade and Fit Gamer for helping them out. I don't know if CLG Faith has that.
I'm not sure.
Gabby, do you know if they have anything like that? Like any workout trainers or anything?
I
haven't heard anything.
Walks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that I'm sure they do fun stuff together, but I don't think a regiment.
So this is my offer to you then, CLG. Hire me, because we're about to teach you some workouts. Okay?
Okay.
A reminder for everybody. I'm coming up with the show on the fly today.
I'm stealing half of his
flying by
computer.
the seat of our pants as Joshi is at my computer, so I can't really prep anything during the shows. But what I do have, were you gonna add something?
No, I was gonna hit this button.
Oh,
bam! It's the top of our heads.
Oh.
Technology. Look at this. All right, so we're gonna do something fun here. Gabby, I know you're gonna like this bit because you're also a fitness junkie, right?
Yeah, I actually want to, as a hobby at some point, just get my a personal trainer certificate just to be able to help friends.
Honestly, same. I had the goal to do that this off season, and I didn't do it. But how seriously do you take your wrist health, Gabby?
Pretty seriously. I keep them protected. Make sure to do a lot of forearm stretches and stuff because it's all linked. You know.
Yep. Forearm stretches up and down with the wrist, especially gamers. So I was showing off this earlier. Every gamer should have one of these. Like it's just a pad that you put for your keyboard, and you can have it under your mouse too. Because then your wrist is resting on the pad as opposed to being like down here where you're cutting off blood flow.
What are your thoughts on the waifu versions?
You know what? As long as it's functional.
Whatever gets you going to do the thing.
But you can do more as gamers.
As gamers.
And we're going to show Joshi just how much he can do. Actually, we're going to learn together how much Joshi can do. Because we're just going to keep adding weight onto these and see how much you can do. Also, I did not think about camera framing here.
Yeah, you did not.
Let's get you to walk out as far as you can.
You're going to get to see the work from home outfit.
Yes, the sweatpants.
The sweatpants.
I'm just wearing full denim. All right, so this, I don't actually know the exact name of it. But what works is your wrist, but also a muscle up here in your forearm called the pronator. So for all the CLG Faith players out there, they need to be stretching this right now, warming it up even more, because you're doing a lot of wrist motions while you're gaming. So this is 5 pounds on there, Joshi. Let's see what you can do.
Okay. Am I doing it all with my right hand?
Sure. You're just going to twist it. Gabby, have you ever used one of these?
I have not. I've seen them, though, but I haven't used them personally.
I'll have to bring it next time I'm like going to LCS so you can try it out. There you go. Not too bad, right? All right, I'm going to add some more weight onto it. While we're doing that, you're going to...
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to save that one for... No, that's the finale. Don't touch that one. Don't touch that one.
Okay.
Don't touch that one. Now you're going to grab this. So this is just a single-loaded dumbbell. Gabby, do you have any of these?
I do.
So I put a fat grip on it. Makes it harder to hold. And you're going to do the same thing, where you just kind of hold it to the side, and you do these little twists. Twisting motions. Now, the idea is you only load weight onto one side, so that way you got rotational pull.
All right, let's see. Let's make sure the camera can see it. So I'm just doing
Am I in frame? Can you see my... Hey, guys.
See your head.
I see your face.
It's just this?
It's just that.
Damn. That is not a muscle I use very often.
It is important for gamers to work their wrists.
Let's see. I don't want to... Could you imagine if I just had, like, one, like, really strong forearm and the other one was, like... You know, it could be like Tryndamere.
Yeah, you'd be like Tryndamere.
Yeah.
Or like, what's that one movie, the M. Night Shyamalan movie? Lady in the Water. Does anyone know that reference? $5 if you know that reference.
One person Twitch
I'm not actually paying you. All right, I'll take that. Here we go. Now try this. So now it's up to 10 pounds. Oh, sorry, I handed it to you the wrong way. There you go.
I like this because it works for both general fitness, but also gamer.
10 pounds. If you think 10 pounds is lightweight, try using this. Workout for gamers. Workout for your wrist, okay?
All right.
How hard was that on a scale of 1 to 10?
Like a 7 or 8.
7 or 8, but it's only 10 pounds. Think about that.
It's only 10 pounds. Now, I didn't even try the 5 pounds on my left arm before.
CLG Faith, pay attention. This is what you need to do. Warm up your wrists before the game. Maybe you'll close out the game next time. Gabby, are you looking for something to work out with?
I got mine.
Yes.
Oh, it's just so heavy.
Oh, it's incredible.
Just so, just very, very hard to do.
I love the shirt you're wearing, too. It's a banger shirt. Banger shirt.
That's
a nice
heavy.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
You think you can do 15 pounds?
Maybe once.
Well, we're gonna have you try it.
We're gonna
have you try it. While I'm setting this up, we're gonna do now the next test. This is called a dynamometer. This is just show and tell, basically. This is what this whole halftime segment is. If you can't tell, I just gotta show off my toys. So it's called a dynamometer. You just squeeze, and it will tell you how much.
Yeah, could you demonstrate like the proper technique real quick?
So proper technique here. I'll get low, so you can actually see me. So you kind of want to extend your hand, almost like a punching motion, because as you extend your hand, you're tightening up your forearm. You're gonna get more oomph. Yeah. All right, you ready?
Yep.
I turned off while I was doing it. Damn it. All right.
Round two. Okay. 153.2
pounds. Not bad for my first one.
Dang. Now, I'm going to run and get a pair of dumbbells in the meantime.
Let's do it. We're getting a workout in.
Yeah. Last time I did this, he brought this over to the Casa de Caster as opposed to the Caster Cabana.
Yep.
And we had a couple people try it out. And what Steve was saying was that people who tend to be really good at this tend to be like climbers and
rock climbers, and plumbers, mechanics, anybody who works with their hands a lot. Obviously, rock climbers because you're doing a lot of like pinch grip stuff.
I was a climber like 5 years ago. Like I did a fair amount of it. So you got 153.
Let's see it.
That was worse.
77.5. All
right, we're gonna try one more time.
You gotta get half.
The last time I did this, I was in the 90s when you brought it over.
Oh yeah, you hit. I think you did.
It was like 90, 92, I think. But all right, here we go.
Gotta hit some triples.
You got it.
83. 82.8.
Okay.
All right, better. Not as good as we did before, but I'm also just like, I burned it out already.
Can your wrist handle the insane pressure of 15 pounds of rotational pull?
All right. This is a new,
So again, think about it at home. Gabby's curling, are those 15s there or are those 20s?
Yeah, I just grabbed like the 15s real quick. But I was like, we're doing some forearm stuff. I'll do some hammer curls. Yeah,
so curls, this is what most people think of when they think of like 15 pounds, right? It's just that motion. The bicep can handle it. But the thing about the wrist, that's a lot of weight on it when it's trying to twist.
Here we go. We're going to lift it up.
Okay. Oh, yeah!
Let's do it!
Let's go! Good stuff, Joshi. All right, that's all I got. That's all I got for
That's all you got. All right.
Should I try it? I don't want to. That was impressive. I don't want to one-up you.
Nah, it's if you want to. See if you can do a 20. See if you can do a 20.
Oh, I can do a 20.
You can do a 20?
The question is, can I do the entire stack?
The entire stack?
I don't know how much weight this is. I think my PR is like 50 pounds.
Oh,
50?
I don't know. How much is this right now? I'm not even going to. I'm not doing the math.
You ever do like rotate your dumbbells around during the curls and stuff too to get that extra? No.
All right, here we go.
Let's see if I can do it. I think pick band's ready. So this is going to be the last one.
I was trying to decide if I want to keep curling during pick band or not, but maybe we'll get to it.
Let's go.
That was a lot. That was really hard. That was really hard. Okay. That was probably my max right there. There we go. Hopefully that was entertaining for this really last minute halftime segment we're running with no internet at the Casa de Caster.
I wonder if we have internet.
Promoing good health.
We might.
I'm out of breath
if I were to go back.
It's probably a bad sign that I'm out of breath from doing a wrist workout. But how was your workout, Gabby?
The whole time too. Very different when you're instructing and stuff. My workout's good. It was I chose late.
Nice.
I was like 15, just come in. Maybe I'll do that during the games a little.
Didn't even look like you were like struggling curling that though. What do you like curl for your normal curls?
It's hard because I haven't been doing PRs. I'm just like in a cut with weightlifting, so I'm like doing just a lot of like 15s, 20s with stuffs and like a lot of like shoulder. Like I just like keep it in like the 20 range and stuff like that. A 25 for if it's like chest or like certain shoulder things.
Just for context, I weigh about 145 pounds right now.
Yeah.
5'8". For anybody who's curious. The most I've ever been able to bench in my life was about 150. I could bench a little bit more than my weight at the time.
Nice. Yeah. That's good. That's more than a plate on each side.
True.
Yeah.
Fans are voting on AOE right now. CLG Faith, they're not showing up.
Not a lot of it.
Where are the faithful?
Myra, why are you in chat?
Let's get into pick and ban so we can catch up on what the team strategies are going forward. Hopefully CLG Faith has done their wrist workouts or their warm-ups.
Yeah.
I know we're all warmed up. slightly sweaty now.
My arm is, my right arm is definitely a lot like tighter than my left arm.
Do you want to try it with your left? Or like the?
It's gonna be bad. I'm gonna guess it's gonna be in like the 60s.
Mine's always worse too. Yeah, I mean, I gotta bring this for you to try too. That's only 135.
Only 135, he says. I'm gonna guess I'm gonna get like somewhere in the 60s.
Okay. 60.8. Out technically in the 60s. Cool. All right, we're gonna throw this away. Not away, but like away from us.
Yeah. But we're done with it for now. I'm gonna knock over your other webcam. But we are back. We're into the champion select.
Back into the champion select.
Yeah. Is that your microphone?
This is now my pointer. You ever see when they do those verse challenges on TikTok and stuff, and then sometimes they don't have the mic and they just do things like a lint roller and they're like,
yeah.
This is a very different For You page than I'm used to.
That's true. I
don't want to see Joshi's For You page.
Oh, yeah. That'll be an investigation for another time.
There's a lot of maps, actually, on my For You pages.
Or a lot of PowerPoint tips, or are you so good at PowerPoint that you're like, I don't even need that part of TikTok. Yeah. Are you a PowerPoint content creator, Joshi?
I talked about it yesterday. I almost went to Las Vegas for a PowerPoint competition in high school.
He did. He did almost do that. That is the level of nerd that is sitting next to me right now. And hopefully, actually, maybe it should rub off on me.
I'll rub off on
I think we're all in esports and like.
So AOE versus CLG.
We're back in. This is the exact same draft as game one. So far.
The same bands, same picks. Last time, CLG Faith took the Xayah. AOE decided later to rip away the Rakan. We are getting a little bit of a switch up, though, in the Wukong coming through for NXI.
Yeah, they were playing the Sejuani last time. It was Pig, now Monkey, and they are going to be able to have a little bit more direct play, right? You can get on top of people in a very similar fashion as you were able to in the previous one, but now you're also going to be doing quite a bit more damage. Whereas AOE, they got the same champions, but they have opted to pick up the Jace here rather than taking away the Rakan. It looks like they're really valuing that for Darkwings.
A lot of ranged poke. I love this kind of combo where Maokai just presses W on somebody, and then the Varus and the Jace layer the poke on top of it, isolate or rooted down target. Pretty easy to follow up.
Yeah. It's a similar Alpha Strike to what we were seeing kind of become a little bit more popular towards like the middle of summer 2022. But one of the big things they have to be wary of is, again, people who can build Warmonks on the other team. Wukong doesn't really like to do it. Sion can do it, but doesn't really like to. And then on the other side of the map, AOE, like they just have a lot of raw poke that they need to be careful has a bit of protection, because Maokai is probably not going to be enough all on their own.
And looking at the first game where they had multiple layers of protection is what worked out for them, having a Cho'Gath that got pretty big for Gamsu and just eating a lot of the damage that CLG was dishing out. I do wonder what CLG end up doing in the support position, because of last time that Rakan getting taken away so early, they ended up going for the Nami. And when thinking through some of the micro synergies that can happen with Nami and Xayah, they're not as strong as some of the other options when pairing for this particular AD carry. And last ban being used for the Cho'Gath too. They don't want to deal with that from Gamsu again.
That makes a lot of sense. And I echo that sentiment. I wasn't a fan of the Nami plus Xayah. I just feel like it didn't...
I thought it was cool. I liked it.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Like, it played a lot like Lucian, right? You just have a lot of damage, except now you have crowd control.
But Xayah's harder at like going forward than Lucian, because that's the thing about Lucian Nami is that they can be the aggressors. I find that Xayah has a more difficult time being the aggressor in the lane. So I like it paired more as like a more defensive style.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't talk about hovers. That's rule number one, but this would be very fun to see locked in.
It would.
I think it would just lose.
Yeah.
Right. There are times when Vigar R's is really good, but instead going back to the Akali for town. Again, I'm still wanting to see more of the Irelia or the Sylas coming out from town. There are champions that are both decent right now. Irelia is quite good into Jace, and the Sylas is also a character that can really beat up Jace, not during the laning phase, but later on during the game. And so with this Akali coming through, it is going to be another very similar composition coming out from CLG Faith, but AOE need to figure out how they're going to deal with this massive take in the top lane, and it is going to be another Mordekaiser for Gamsu. It's not the first time he's played this, and the big thing that this does is you remove one of the big tanks from the other side so that everybody else can dive into the back line.
I believe it was them versus FlyQuest, or maybe it was them versus CLG proper where Gamsu had a big backdoor earlier on in the split. Yeah, it was a really funny Mordekaiser backdoor, and Gamsu historically has played this even as far back as last year. So
yeah,
cool little
how
tech.
I remember it was FlyQuest?
Oh,
because it was the 50-minute game. I had to pause that like took like 45 minutes to resolve.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't even. I was casting that. I don't even remember that moment.
Yeah, you came to me after the day, and he's like, I don't remember games 5 and 6 at all. But we do get sketch
together.
They all mushed together. It's his first time casting 6 games, basically, ever.
Yeah.
And so we now have the Soraka coming through. And it's going to be creating a very, very tough front-to-back for AOE to try and play for. And so we are going to have to see them be a little bit more inventive this time around, just like they were in our first game of this series, where they don't necessarily take all these front-to-backs. They try and find ways to push CLG Faith around the map. And that is something that AOE has been quite good at in comparison to a lot of the provisional teams.
I like what a Soraka can do against a Maokai. It's one of my favorite support counters into it, because if Maokai goes in, you just drop the silence field directly at whoever he's targeting, and then he's not going to be able to Bramble Smash throughout the Nature's Grasp, and then you can just probably not blow him up, but at least like reposition and like get out of the engage for him. So cool little counter there. But yeah, CLG Faith, I like this more than last game's draft. Let's see if it gets them to win, because I'm going to get out of here one more time. Gabby.
Are you praging for the Faith?
Prage for the Faith.
Prage.
Take it away.
Let's go enjoy your stretch out of your forearms. You did not push your chair nearly enough to sell that, sir. Sound of it. Go to game. All right. Well,
that happened.
Yeah, that happened. Go stretch yourself out. As Joshi, make sure to stretch out your forearms.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, there are a few. Even if you just like put your arm kind of out straight, like from shoulder to wrist, basically, and with your fingertips pointing up, and if you hold your fingertips with your other hand and pull like your fingertips towards you, that's one way to do it. And then you kind of do the opposite. So get that going to warm you up into this early game while AOE and CLG are setting up. Whenever the Soraka comes out, you're always looking to how is the support going to affect not just potentially kind of really being that saving grace with that Wish ultimate whenever somebody finds themselves down in a duel, but as Kangits was saying, throwing down what you can to try and silence against some of the lockdown that Winnie and the rest of AOE are going to have. So that Equinox being very important in future interactions.
Yeah, but you know who Wolverine is?
Yeah. What do you mean, do I know who Wolverine is? Yes.
I am talking about the Twitter analyst, not the
I thought you meant actually like Wolverine, but yes, I know who that is.
You also know who that is. Yeah. But you also know that he is the biggest Soraka fan you've probably ever met. Somebody should probably at him on Twitter and just let him know that we do have another Soraka game coming through and see what his opinions are about this, because he is a massive, massive fan of Enchanters, and Seraphine is a huge, huge proponent of all of these different kind of characters. But it is definitely a spot right now where CLG Faith are bringing it in. We have been seeing this kind of play from Sketch a fair amount. It has been banned away from him quite a bit as well, but this is going to be a big test for CLG Faith, right? If they get this champion that's been banned away from them in, I'd say, close to half of their games, and they actually had a pretty close game one, like, this should be a much better opportunity for CLG Faith to actually play this one out, just because they have a very similar game plan, and they were very close to winning the first game.
They were. They had so much pressure through that bot lane that they were working to really push Aaron into a leading position. I think AoE did do a good job of making sure they extended advantages elsewhere, particularly Gamsu just doing what he needed to do in that lane, which is a way that he's been very reliable as a top laner. But in the end, CLG Faith can look at those moments and say, can we recreate it? You still have the immobile Varus or Lynx when he's still trying to step into the enemy jungle, but NXI taking away this blue. Very common for Winnie to aggress into the enemy jungle in the early portions of the game.
Yeah, but this time it ends up being a pretty big waste of time, unfortunately, for Winnie. Yes, they found out where NXI is, but now NXI can just leave. Remember, the big thing about taking away opponents' camps is how much time you're forcing your opponents to waste. You get less than you would farming your own camps, but you deny more from your opponents. And so we'll see what Winnie is actually able to do, right? Because the other big thing that we have to note is that Town is having a much better early laning phase this game than they did in the first one. At this point, Darkwings was up almost a whole wave of farm already, whereas Town is still just absolutely chilling. NXI doesn't get boxed out early on in the game, and so CLG Faith, like, there's a bit of small victories that they picked up, a couple of small spots where they are struggling a little bit, but the fact that Town is having a much better time here is a big testament to how much better Town is playing in the second game.
Yeah, because in that first game where it was very much set up in draft and early saying, okay, Town is a win condition for the squad if it gets online, but did not come into the conversation considering how the game ended up going, and it became much more the talk about Aaron for CLG. But if you're going back to those original attempts of what the win conditions for CLG were in the first place, you can still index towards that mid lane. When we are looking to see how Town brings himself into the squad, and Gamsu and Bajani spent so much of the time last game just on their own up on this top side, really allowing the Cho'Gath in that matchup versus Sion to excel. Now we're getting the second Mordekaiser game for Gamsu. A lot of poke onto Town across this mid lane here too. But yeah, no kills just yet. Just some solo action.
Yeah. And so the other place that we kind of got to look back at, right, is even though the Soraka has come out for Sketch, it's not necessarily entirely about the laning phase here, right? It is going to be Lynx and Skytech. They did win the early 2v2 last time we were watching the bottom lane. At the same time that NXI and Town were losing a 2v2 up against Winnie and Darkwings, and so this feels like a much more stable early start to the game for CLG. The top lane matchup is not as bad for Bajani as we were looking at with the Cho'Gath in the first place. And so it definitely feels as though CLG Faith coming into this, they aren't losing as hard in the bottom lane, but they also don't have the same kind of tools to try and catch out Lynx when Skytech roams for the next time the Rift Herald actually spawns.
And we'll definitely be looking at that Herald when it does spawn. Right now, it's the Ocean Dragon that is up. All right. Some more poke down here. So a bit of a CS lead for Darkwing. Same that was established before, where ultimately you are just hoping for Town to keep up with that matchup. So still a lot to be happy about here. I know that Winnie had been setting up for some time on that bot sub, but that was quite a bit ago. NXI actually right back in the jungle vicinity. They have the ward advantage despite that control being dropped down from AOE. And looking to see who ends up making the first move in that direction, because we already know that Skytech is rotating effectively.
Yeah. And AOE is definitely a team that will oftentimes go for these. Ooh, I think Winnie might have slid by that. How about pings over towards there, but I don't know if they actually spotted out the Maokai. Now they definitely know. Oh, wrong monkey.
Yeah. Like that NXI is still staying in the Animal Kingdom with the jungle pool in this particular matchup, this time over on the Wukong, but with AoE, finding that they just are keeping tabs on the rotations from the mid and bot side, since that's where the objective focus is, and Gamsu continuing to harass a bit of that CS lead for himself. But pretty tempered movement from both sides of this matchup, a bit of a gold lead overall for AoE.
We'll see how well they are able to continue this, right? One of the big things that AoE has kind of set themselves up as is they will always lose like KT. They'll also win like KT, right? When there's just completely crazy game plans. And I think that's kind of like a dated reference now that I think about it, right? Because like, Jin Air is not even in the league anymore, right? That's something where people are not necessarily going to know if like they're only a new League of Legends fan. But
dated or historical?
That's it. Because I'm definitely not old. That's the most important part.
A historic reference for framing for the new folk.
Reference, and for anybody who has been around for a while, an old head, as you were describing them yesterday, is definitely a situation where AoE will be going for a lot of these big plays, right? Even when it feels like they're not supposed to. And one of the things that was a little bit surprising about their victory last game was how much they actually got without fighting. Right? They ended up pushing around CLG by just being a little bit better on the map and being more decisive. As soon as CLG gave up positioning on the Baron, AoE was very able to just walk in and take that away from them because they just said, hey, this is ours. You have left. We're going to take it.
And that's why, even though CLG was pulling up ahead in the aggression, the kills were like 4-10 or something at some point, then you look at the goal and you think, it's under 1,000 lead for themselves. AOE just had to play and they took a turret. Now they swung you back. There was never this big explosive gap between the two squads. So I think AOE showing that tempered approach to the game is always going to be important, not just in these games, but in playoffs in particular, where mental and resilience flowing through multiple back-to-back games against the opponent is super important so that you don't look too much into advantages that are drawn across the map and lose your resolve.
Yeah. So, one of the things that... Oh, CLG Faith looking for a invade here.
SkyTech putting the body between Lynx and NXI. Saw them on the rotation. Wanted to make sure they didn't poke down his carry. Everyone's kind of just like, do we want to get a little bit into the action? No, never mind.
Just waiting around still looking for an opportunity to actually find their way in. But one of the other things that I've kind of been looking at is kind of the growth that we have been seeing from Gamsu, right? Because they were a pretty big part of the win that AOE were able to pick up in Game 1. Even if they weren't the most flashy in a lot of their fights, they were this massive problem that CLG didn't really have an answer to. And so watching like Gamsu play, it's been interesting hearing what a lot of his peers will say about him, what he kind of sees as his growth over the course of a single split, because early on the split, it tends not to play very well. But as it goes on, he always seems to level up. He always seems to get better when you start getting into these brackets in particular, and as kind of evidenced by the fact that he's been in the last 3 Academy playoffs or Proving Grounds equivalents in a row, is a kind of big testament to how well he tends to play in these situations. But he's not the greatest laner, and so one of the things that will oftentimes happen is he will try a lot of things. He will experiment a lot early on in the split when it matters less in order to make sure that they can be strong and have done enough experimentation during the season to be able to feel like they can play a lot of different things come playoffs time.
I think that's where a lot of that veterancy comes into as well, because even though I think most players do have that understanding, especially in leagues like the NACL, it's about improving and making sure that we're learning something. Everyone's making it to playoffs, so that gives us a bit of grace, even though seeding does impact the actual strength of your matchup. There's room to do that, but it's still so hard to take away the factor of I am trying to get dubs. This is a competitive league. Especially if you start falling behind, and teams that are in positions like CLG Faith, right? And we even heard Hyper sing in the interview after the FlyFam victory earlier on that, yes, we're focused on getting those wins and really getting into effect. And there is a nuance between we're focusing on getting the wins so that we can find out what is contributing to the wins so we can learn to play around it. And I think there's one aspect like that versus we're getting the wins to affect our series score. So someone like Gamsu just has faith of, yeah, we're going to make it through and we're going to get to that playoff territory. And I have confidence in my ability that wherever we are when we start playoffs, we're going to do well. Let me use the grace that I have in this moment to experience with anything that I need to set us up with as many tools as possible when it's really on the line for our competitive season.
We'll see how well they can actually do that here. They had a big lead over Bajani in Game 1. Now, smaller lead, but still important lead for Mordekaiser. Is the big thing that we're going to be paying attention to with Gamsu this game is because whenever there's a Mordekaiser in the game, it kind of warps the rest of the game around them because you just force people into duels. You force people into situations where they're not participating in the rest of the fight. So,
when he looked for lock onto NXI, throwing down the ultimate as well. When he also the subject of the Lulu ult, NXI burns, retreating away off of the flash. Still not a kill in sight.
Still not a kill. It's a quiet night. Now AOE, they're looking for another one. Sketch has no ultimate.
Oh, seeing the collapse from AOE, Aaron immediately starts to rain in damage onto Lynx, hoping maybe I can get a chunk down before Winnie and SkyTech come upon this direction, but in the end cannot finish off. Sketch using the heal, AOE using that forward positioning to get onto the dragon right now. Town is in the vicinity, but nonetheless AOE have to be wary because they don't exactly have wards that give them too much information on where Town or NXI could be coming from, and these are both champions that can just really get on top of your carries in a very dangerous way. So AOE end up retreating to the outskirts of this Dragon Pit, though still standing on by while CLG start to burn this down.
Damn. That's the third time that Darkwings has had his Shock Blast dodged. That would have been kills probably, right? If that lands onto Sketch, that's a lot of damage. Barely missing out on the kill onto Town and NXI earlier on. So, seeing Gamsu go back to this big proxy style, but it does feel as though AOE, they're definitely a much more tempered version of themselves than when they were kind of struggling in the middle of the season. They've kind of reined it back in a little bit. And so far, I mean, going up against CLG Faith, it seems to be working, right? They are out-laning basically everywhere on the map. The smallest lead that AOE has is currently down here in the bottom lane, where Aaron and Sketch have done a good job neutralizing a lot of the early play. But you can also see that there's a big difference between what SkyTech has and Sketch has because of partly from plates, partly from just the fact that they're doing a better job actually getting harassed down across a lot of these early a lot of this early play. So CLG Faith, even though the game feels relatively even, it's oftentimes a larger lead now than you would have it if teams had started picking up some kills.
And especially when comparing to some of the game state of game number 1 with a lot of the draft being similar, how can Town pop off? Aaron not getting that 2v2 advantage so securely in the bot lane early on. And I talked about it a bit on broadcast yesterday. I've done so in a few casts because I really do believe in how much better it is to be able to pull back from those that are willing to hit the go button. So you calling out that AOE are playing in that tempered way and learning when to have that restraint on themselves is just such a good sign, because you know they can pop off and move forward when the time calls for it, and they're getting better and better at finding that timing. But in the end, we're at 15 minutes into the game. One dragon.
No blood.
No blood. Gold lead just keeps on growing a bit for AOE. I mean, Town is keeping some control over that slight lead that Darkwings has been building up, and the blast cone from multiple CLG members. They saw Lynx as the weakest link last time because of that immobile nature, and now they're going for the kill again. Aaron taking all these shots, though. First blood granted, but the trade to put a kill into Lynx's pocket.
Honestly, great start coming out from NXI, right? Using the stop motion of the decoy in order to bait out Lynx's ultimate, but just so much damage getting taken that he ends up buying enough time. In the mid lane, Darkwing is going to pick up the first brick as well, and now Town is going to be a little careful, but that's where a big part of this lead is starting to come from, right? Darkwing's just beating up Town, doing a fantastic job, given this good matchup 2 games in a row, and really running with it.
Yeah, look, wave in full effect after taking down this turret to keep pushing up. So even though CLG was initiating that play on the bot side, AOE making sure to respond. Still keeping their top laners over on the top side, but I think CLG, when looking at this, they are probably considering, okay, in game 1, where was our advantage? We have been able to make that happen around mid lane, so let's try bot now. If we can also try and face off where Gamsu's on a different pick, won't have that Cho'Gath, maybe we'll be able to get more access to AoE's backline later on in the game, because Bajani is still trying their best to make sure they're farming up to be that tank for the team fights. They don't have to go and do all these crazy things up top. Just really be that source of stability for CLG Faith when the fights break out.
Yeah. Something that is kind of worth keeping in mind, though, is that when CLG Faith have had some of their best games, it's oftentimes been with Bajani on something like the Jax, on something that can be much more aggressive in the game. It's a lot harder to do on the side, to have the same kind of solo plays on this tank as we oftentimes attribute to them. And I feel like that contributed a little bit to some of their struggles in game 1. Bajani not used to being the initiator. And one of the things that, is kind of a side tangent, Gabby, is I always feel like tanks get a bad rap. But you do as like being super easy champions, but there's like a mindset switch that you have to be a good tank player. And like Gamsu is one of the best players in the league at using that mindset, right? Because your goal is very rarely to kill the other person. Your goal is to get them to hit you, right? Your goal is to just be this meat shield so that your actual DPS can do their job. And Bajani is still a skill set that it looks like they've been working on throughout the course of this season, and hopefully we'll be able to really showcase that as we start looking towards the upcoming fights, which will probably happen in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, they're definitely gearing up for it. 25 seconds till the Dragon comes in. NXI, the first to make the move. Lynx now on the retreat, still takes so much damage after Bajani locking on as much as possible.
He's alive?
still alive so far. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we got those trades of kills down bot, but we haven't quite gotten the skirmish kills just yet.
Yeah. The fact that Bajani actually lives that is kind of wild. And so AOE, they now have total control over this upcoming dragon. They're sending Mordekaiser to do it all by themselves. And AOE instead, the rest of their team's going to move up in the mid lane, trying to do the damage to the structure and take away even more of the map. Because CLG Faith, that's all of their engaged tools gone. They cannot attempt to start another fight. And as long as Winnie is standing in the right places, they get both charges, they get the dragon, they're going to get another turret. And this is one of the big things that AOE does very well. After a fight happens, they move around the map and they take everything that's there for the taking.
Exactly. Great movement to have Darkwings and Lynx working on that bottom lane for the pressure, all the while with Winnie and Skytech ushering for that second charge onto the Rift Herald and Gamsu taking the dragon. That's one of the moments where you look at teams and when they're separated across a map. Oh, but now, see, that's the thing. Some of that separation can get punished in a moment's time as Gamsu, now the target of Bajani and the rest of the squad, retreating into the jungle side. But see, that was almost a lot of times when you see teams that are spread across the map, and then if you're in the side of CLG Faith, you're okay, they're putting all this different pressure. Who can we collapse upon to try and create a numbers advantage somewhere? But that's very different than when it's a state like what AOE was doing. Yes, we have some across mid, but it's with a Rift Herald. Yes, we have 2 on bot side, but it is 2. It's not just a singular push that's happening in that direction. And even when CLG tried to find the opportunity, okay, let's go into their jungle, see if we can get a pick while they're separated, there still was enough tools in the kit of AOE to ensure they didn't throw anything over. So an overall good play on them for creating even more advantages, getting even more objective control without giving very much in return, if anything at all.
It definitely feels like I'm trying to figure out, I'll have to ask them at some point, if this is a bit of growth coming out from Winnie shot calling, like a pulling back of what they were doing, or maybe one of the more veteran members. I guess mostly just Gamsu just like slowing down the gameplay a little bit. Because you can definitely tell, like, when AOE go for these big plays, sometimes they look brilliant because they're all on the same page, and even if it's not the best play, they're all doing it together. And sometimes they're just ever so slightly desynced, and that's oftentimes why they would kind of fall behind. It looks like a better system might have been put in place as they're playing up against CLG Faith. And still, one of the things that AOE does, like a lot of Challenger teams also do, is they're so much better at not losing minions whenever they go for one of their roams around the maps than some of the other provisional teams. But it's also very intentional. They will oftentimes very clearly give up some of these big waves in order to try and make a play. And that's where they tend to win or lose a lot of their games, because they can miss out on that gold, but they're doing it as a calculated risk.
And it shows that level of capability where if at the base level they're standing behind plays collectively, it's just not always the right play. But then now they're getting a bit more smooth in what play they make. That is progression that you can definitely track over time, because I'm definitely going to butcher it, but I know Spawn, coach over at Team Liquid, has talked about, I'm not going to do the whole spiel because I've heard him do this on a few different podcasts, but basically how it's not that there is a singular right play. There's a lot of subjective nature in the game of League of Legends, but it's standing behind a play and making sure that as a team you are unified in doing so. So AOE's got the unity thing down now and really making sure that they're collective in all of their pursuits. Now it's just refining some of that decision making. CLG wanting to put a bit of the pressure on him now, but definitely some positives that you look at with the squad.
As I start to set up, I'm still shocked that in an AOE game, it is 22 minutes and we have had 2 kills. AOE.
Yeah.
They continue to push waves down in the bottom side. Gamsu now comes in. He's here in time.
CLG looking for the angle, collapsing onto Skytech, and NXI eliminated right at the start of that. And Bajani, because everyone from AOE is focusing on, it doesn't matter that that's a tank, still gonna get burned down. CLG going for the play, trying to throw it at AOE, but AOE coming out with 2.
Man, I'm so sad we still don't have replays yet, because I was very curious, like, what was Town doing? Like, CLG Faith go for it, but now they look for Lynx.
Oh, yeah, Town's trying to find Lynx right there, but look at the shielding. Look at everything that comes through from AOE to immediately turn that. And with nobody here to contest from CLG, aside from that bot side that has to retreat, AOE, they take the Baron, extending what has been a really controlled take on this game for the first 23 minutes.
And unfortunately, we were talking about the fly fab moments earlier on. We saw a little bit of that in game 1. The CLG Faith moments tend to be oh, one of us fought? Okay, one of us died. Okay, we're going to send another person in. We go in one by a time. We saw a little bit of that, right? CLG Faith, they send in a fight. It was a 4v5 because Town wasn't in a position to participate, and the tanks went anyway. Then Town goes in separately after all the tanks have already died. And then you just find yourself in a worse situation than if you hadn't fought in the first place. So now AOE taking full control of this side of the jungle. You cannot walk through a Maokai in order to get your way here. And they can still just leave Gamsu in the mid lane to continue pushing with Baron.
Over 20 seconds until the dragon spawns within this Baron window. And the push is happening of these waves for AOE. Really aggressive saplings. They're able to throw down. Not a lot of warding opportunities for CLG, especially with the controls and sweepers that AOE are bringing to the fight. But I know that they are feeling good about the game state thus far. Almost an entire 10k gold lead for themselves on the inhibitor turret on the bot side with a Baron empowered wave coming across mid. Teleport coming in from Town to try and get the sandwich onto AOE from the bot side. Will be seen on the wards, though, because there's so many, which means that Winnie starts with the ultimate immediately. Bajani getting polymorphed upon coming in there, but Town has the perfect execution available. Lynx taking a long time to fall down, though. One eliminated for CLG, and it's a 1-for-1 trade thus far. Double kill for Darkwings. Multiple carries here to do the work for AOE. Even though Lynx was eventually eliminated, it just took long enough, and with the lockdown and more, AOE continue to turn this fight into a Nexus turret push.
Wow, AOE just gonna blow that one open here, and Gamsu, I mean, he still has his ultimate available. He did use it during that fight because he never needed to. The threat more valuable than the actual ability in that one, and now as AOE, they take the inhibitor, they take the Nexus turret, they're gonna be backing away, and Town only stops one, but there's another dragon for them to pick up on the way back.
Says that's fine. I don't need to go back right now. I'm just gonna walk on down past this super, and there's a dragon. Does decide to back now, but still in the end, do you see the teleport coming over on the top side from Darkwings and Gamsu also, so they can try to crack open yet another lane. CLG, look at how much damage Aaron takes, though, even though you get the lock. Town already marked low, so the carries are in a dangerous position. AOE coming through with the Winnie ultimate, rooted and knocked down. Town can't do anything else for this squad. Gamsu putting in the work here on the Mordekaiser. When the threats are limited for CLG, AOE are ushering in the pressure continuously. Supers already allotted in that bot side, officially finishing off that mid turret. There's a silence and more onto Winnie, but the wild growth here for enough of that sustainability. Bajani down in the back line. Aaron and Sketch can stand in the fountain so they can get that continuous heal. The Feather Storm here to try and mark down one. Winnie eventually eliminated, but the numbers advantage still good for AOE means they can finish this one off to make it a 2-0 against the struggling CLG Faith and put themselves on the map.
Fly fam. They're now in sole possession of 15th.
CLG Faith could not pick up a win against AOE.
It was close.
Yeah, it was close. Close series, but props to Darkwings on Jace. Honestly, Jace is kind of turning into like a very hype NACL mid lane pick. We got a couple of Jace players now. I think that performance in particular is very, very solid.
Yeah, it's been good. I love the turnaround from Lynx and Skytech. A much better second game from Lynx than we saw in the first one. And even though the first one felt like pretty good from Faith, it's AOE Classics, man. They're winning games, and it feels like they're not supposed to this time.
And they won a game from the Riot Games studio.
They did.
Hey.
Look at that. Woo. That's pretty cool. Unfortunately, that does mean that we do not have webcams for them. I have been told that we do not have the capabilities for that. So we'd love to chat with AOE after the victories. We usually like to talk to the players after they win, but we'll catch them next time. They have more opportunities in the future to win their games. It's a weird situation with all the internet outages in LA, but I'm happy that they were able to play their game. So we're going to send it to a short break while we get ready for our next and final series of the day after this.